Alright guys, welcome back to another tutorial, and in this video finally going to start talking to you about classes and objects and some cool things that you can do with them. So first of all, what the heck is a class? Well, the most simple definition is basically a class is an easy way where you can group similar variables and functions together. So say you're making a computer game. Usually all of the functions dealing with enemies and all the variables too you would want in an enemy class. Maybe you have a different one for moving your character around. Well, all of those functions for moving your main character would be in a character class, so on and so forth. So again, the most simple definition is it's a really cool way where you can group similar variables and functions together. Am I being recorded? Okay, just checking. So with that being said, let's go ahead and look at an example right now. So in order to make a class, type the keyword class and then add a space. Now class pretty much says, hey Python, I'm about to make a class. Now after this, what you want to do is you want to name your class something, and it's common practice to name it with a capital letter, and this is just so programmers can differentiate between a class and like a normal variable or a function or anything like that. So this is how we make a class called enemy. Now add a colon. Now whatever is indented after this is going to be part of your enemy class. So every variable inside here and every function is going to belong to this enemy class. So let's go ahead and make a simple variable first. So we'll say that each enemy has a life of 3. So now this life variable is actually part of this enemy class. Just remember that. So now what we can do is we can make a couple of functions for this class. So what's one thing that we can do? We'll make a function called attack, and this is just what happens whenever we attack an enemy. Now check this out. Whenever I'm just writing these parentheses right here, what PyCharm did is it automatically filled in this keyword of self. Now this is going to be a little confusing until I finish this program and explain what objects are. But pretty much think of whenever you see self, it means use something from this own class. So if you say, you're going to see later like self attack, it means use the attack function in this class. Self life means use the life variable in this class. Again, kind of confusing at first, but you guys are going to see later on what it does. Alright, so let's make this function actually do something. Whenever we attack the enemy, we'll just do something like print attack, or actually let's print ouch. We'll say that the enemy says ouch. And also what we want to do is we want to subtract 1 from the enemy's life. Now we can't just do this. Check it out. If we just try to subtract 1 from life, we get a little error. What we actually need to do is what I was talking about, put self life. So that's how you access the variables inside your class. So pretty much self is saying, okay, inside this class, take away 1 from the life variable. Simple enough. Maybe it was easy, I don't understand. Who knew? Alright, so let's make one more function so this class isn't that boring. We'll make another function to check the enemy's life. And of course, it automatically fills in that self variable. And we'll say, I don't know, maybe a little if statement. So if self, not slough. So if self life is less than or equal to 0, and this is actually another thing I want to point out. Whenever you're making computer games, don't just check if the enemy's life is equal to 0 to see if they're dead. Because, like, if they had 3 life and you had like a super powerful weapon to like slash them and it took away 5 life, well then their life would be -2. So always make sure to check if it's less than or equal to 0. Just a little, I don't know, tip for game development. So if they're less than or equal to 0, we'll just print something like I am dead. The enemy obviously couldn't say anything if it was dead, but this is our game. We can do what we want. Alright, so if they're dead, they're dead. Else, we'll just print out like how much life they have left. So print something like, of course we need to convert it to a string. So print out the amount of life that they have left, and we'll just do something like this. Life left. like 2 life left, 1 life left, tomato, tomato. Alright, so right now we have a very simple class of enemy. So the enemy has 3 life, and we can attack him. Whenever we call this function, it takes 1 life away. And also, anytime we can have it check to see how much life the enemy has. If it's dead, it prints out I'm dead. Or if it's not dead, it tells you how much life he has left. Simple enough. Now, if we just try to do something like this, attack, okay, well, that's not working. Now, the reason that this doesn't work is because in order to use anything inside your class, you need to access it a special way, and that is by creating something called an object. Now, an object, just think of it like this, it's pretty much a way that you can access the stuff inside your class. And I know I just said that twice, but it's actually really important to understand. And they're really easy to make as well. So the first thing you do is you pretty much act like you're making a normal variable. So I'm going to make an object called enemy1. So what you set it equal to is the class that you want to use stuff from. So I want to use the stuff inside the enemy class. So anytime I want to use that, I need this object called enemy1, and it's an object from this class right here. So now we can just do something called enemy1 attack, and what this pretty much means is this. It says, okay, enemy1 is an object from what class? Well, enemy. So go to the class enemy, and once you're in there, use attack. So now if we try to run this, it would say ouch, because it just took 1 away from the enemy. And actually, if we check life to make sure that worked, whenever we run this, said, okay, it starts with 3, of course. So we're going to attack this enemy once, say ouch, and then it says 2 life left. Now, I want to show you guys one other really cool thing, and this is probably the main reason that people use classes all the time. See, each object is actually a copy of its class. So each object is actually independent of one another. So check this out. Don't understand what I mean? You will in just a second. Say that we have enemy1, and say we have another enemy called enemy2. Actually, let me code this entire thing, and then I'll talk you guys through it. And let me do this. Alright, so what's going to happen is we're going to make 2 objects, or 2 copies from this class. One of them is going to be stored in the object enemy1, and another one is going to be stored in the object enemy2. Now each of these are pretty much think of them like their own enemies. So each of those has 3 life each. So whenever you attack enemy1, it doesn't affect enemy2. So let me run this and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So we created 2 objects, we attacked enemy1 twice, and then checked its life, and it had 1 life left. However, enemy2, it still had 3 life left. So this is how people make computer games with one class, which is pretty much a template of how do you want to code the enemy, how do you want it to act and behave, and you can create as many of them as you want just by making an object for each one. So how awesome is that? So that is the basics of a class. Pretty much not only a group of similar functions and objects, but pretty much a template of how you want an object to behave and act. And of course you can make as many copies of it as you want, and each of the objects are independent of one another. So if you guys don't completely understand this, or it seems kind of like unfamiliar, whenever we start making other programs, it's going to become second nature and also really easy to understand. But that is the basics of classes and objects in Python. And also, if you have any questions, then ask me on my forum. But for now, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next tutorial.